Amigos, welcome back to El Cuarto de where we gather as friends to discuss our daily lives y chismear un rato about our favorite artists. I am so excited to be back. I actually haven't been recording for a few weeks. One, because you know me, I always have tragedias in my life. But then two, because the world is crazy and I just needed a mental break to gather my thoughts and to really I don't know, kind of dissect what is going on around the world. But today I am joined by a very, very special guest. Now he's going to be part of the Amigos Club, I'm sure. That's how we call ourselves, Amigos Club. I want to welcome to El Cuarto de mi Suegra, mi amigo, my new friend, Diego. Hi, Diego.
Hi, gracias. Thank you for having me here.
Thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to kind of chit chat with us here. You're going to get a little applause. Yay. Thank
Likewise.
you so much for again taking the time. I know we have such a busy lives, everybody has busy lives and the world is crazy. I'm sure you know. You know the world is crazy right now. So it's always fun to take the opportunity to kind of have conversations with real people because I'm telling you, in social media we just I feel like it's like a fake world out there and us regular people are just kind of watching it like a novela, from our phones. So it's always nice to have like actually a connection with individuals. So I definitely you're a local, right, Diego? You're from Santa Barbara County?
Yeah, so I'm born and raised in Goleta, Old Town Goleta, Nectarine Street. But I also spent time growing up in Oxnard a bit, by El Camino del Sol Park. But I was going to school the whole time in Santa Barbara, commuting, right? It was just so expensive. My family was never able to live in Santa Barbara.
Oh, I know. I mean, it's such a beautiful place, right? But it is crazy. I mean, California is crazy expensive, but honestly, I have tried, like, I moved a lot, like, through my life. Like, I come from Mexico, but I moved different areas in California, and it's still expensive anywhere you move. But I, like, tried moving out of state, and I honestly just couldn't get myself to move out of California. Well, besides because my family is all here or in Mexico, so it's just like closer. But also just like I'm the type of person, I mean, I don't know how you are, but I'm the type of person that I literally research everything, like the town, the area, like how, because I have a family, like how is like to raise a family, but then also like the political side. And I didn't start getting into like not like political like 100%. Like I just started really like recently actually caring about what's going on. And I think it's just maturity, really. Like when you're young, you're just so like just trying to survive, one, or just living your best life and you're just not really worrying about anybody else. But enough about me. Like you're my guest. I want to know you. And we're actually meeting for the first time through Zoom, just FYI to our listeners. So I always say El Cuarto de mi Suegra is an open door invitation to everybody. I love to know people's stories, background, and it is a safe space for everybody to share their story and give people a voice just to talk about whatever they want, right? But one of the reasons that we got connected through a mutual friend, and I wanted to get to know you because I do see that you're super involved in the community and especially in the Latino community. You do so much. And I don't know if it's through just your education, but talk to me a little bit about you, Diego. Like you say you're from Santa Barbara County, you were born and raised here. But you were telling me a little bit about your parents' backgrounds before we recorded. So tell me what is your ethnicity or where are your parents from?
My parents were born and raised in Mexico. That's where my older brothers are born. Um, but they came to the States in the mid 90s, after NAFTA is signed, the US, Mexico, Canada. There's a bunch of economic consequences, right? The peso gets devalued, and there is a new wave of migration that happens after 1994, and my parents are a part of that. Este, but my mom's side of the family comes from Aguascalientes, a very small rural state in the very center. My dad's side of the family comes from Hidalgo, but his dad is Lebanese, so he came to Mexico as a refugee in the probably late 50s. So my dad, who is half Lebanese, half Mexican, didn't actually grow up with that side of the culture. But it's a very, it's actually a pretty common cultural blend.
Yeah, no, I mean, I feel like a lot of people, if you weren't born and raised in Mexico, you, people are shocked of how also there's a lot of multicultural uh relationships and that because I mean, technically, the background of a lot of the countries there were it's just a mix. It's a mix of different backgrounds and it is um it is super interesting to me. And as the older I get, I also started like educating myself a little bit more about just history because when you're younger, I mean, I'm gonna be honest, I was not that interested in history, but it's an interesting thing though because like I said, I remember going to school in Mexico, and just as an example, it just because it's just something that I remember like in Mexico, we would study, Columbus Day, right? Cristobal Colon and all that, the history of it. And how they thought the history in Mexico, which I say is the truth and the authentic story, versus when I came to the US and because I was like a year in advance in certain like in math and history, we were a little bit advanced and they made me take the test of placement and I was like a year in advance, but my mom said like, no, we don't want to push her forward because we want her to to learn more English. So when I was hearing this, how they were teaching that specific part of history, I was like, they made it seem like they had a Columbus Day here and it was like such a big celebration and it was like, oh, he discovered America and it was like this like grand thing, right? But that's not how I learned it in Mexico. Like that he was like bad. And when I came here I was like so confused. I was like, wait, like he's good? Like I thought he was bad. Like and so it's just like it's just one of the examples like how now like I was like I need to go back and like really study like this history because I think the like I mean, I don't want to call it brainwash me a little bit when I like started studying here, but I was like, I don't know. I don't believe I had to really like do my own research to really like see what's going on in the history of just different countries because I'm like now so confused, right? And then the older you get, you kind of you start thinking on your own and you start seeing things. And one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about is because I know you, I mean, based on what I kind of looked in through your social media and what I heard is that you are super into like cultural, promoting our culture, and you do some sort of like you're part. I don't know if you're part of a dance group or I seen you like do some cultural, I don't know what it's called. I'm sorry. Like what is this it called? Like are you part of a dance group or am I just thought that wrong?
Yeah, yeah. Aztec dancing,
Yes,
or
yes. Okay.
Mexicano. Yeah, you could call it Aztec dancing. But that is really more so than a folklore or just a traditional form of dancing. It really
Mhm.
encapsulates a whole way of life. Um, those are the ceremonies um, that we celebrate birthdays with, that we celebrate funerals with, that we show up to batallas, to protests with. So it functions in our communities much more than just like a performance or a show, right?
Right.
It really is like a structure that you live your life around. The danzas and the ceremonies and the cantos, a lot of things, right, that have been passed down, that are a continuation of of very ancient traditions, right, continue to help us today. And so the danza is one way, one expression of that tradition.
And it's so beautiful. Like I to like see like to me, I find all that like so fascinating, and like you said, like I love that is it's not entertainment. It's like a form of telling a story or speaking up about something, or like you said, like remembering somebody or paying respect to somebody. So it's a part of expression and part of that what would you say, like ancestors and traditions of our culture.
Yeah.
um
Yeah.
yeah, and that's so beautiful. And I mean, if you guys have a chance to the Amigos Club, you should definitely go check out his Instagram because you have videos there, and I think it's just super, like, super beautiful and cool that you do that. But is it like a and what's your Instagram, just so if people want to go check it out?
That's El Miclo 25 with
Okay,
El dot.
it's all together.
There might be,
Oh, you don't
I think
remember?
there's an underscore in the after.
It's okay. I will put it on the description of the episode just so that people can go check it out. But is it like is it just it's not a group, is it a group, or is it just your friends who do this?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I can actually send you the Instagram of at least a couple grupos. So there are
Yeah.
several circles, right, that gather to practice these
Okay.
traditions. And there's intricate, complicated structure of how these grupos are run,
Mm,
what particular tradition they follow, right? Because it's not all the same.
right.
Um, so in Santa Barbara, there's a grupo that's like Santa Barbara Oxnard.
Mm-hmm.
There's a group in Ventura. That's where I started my path through danza in Ventura. There's one in Fillmore. There's one in Santa Paula, and we're often at each other's events, collaborating. So if you saw the manifestation we had in Old Town Goleta
Yeah.
outside of the community center, there was at least two, or there was three different people from three different circles that were all dancing together as one grupo
Mm.
that was leading the marcha. So if you see that it wasn't even just one group of there was like it was a coalition even in the danza aspect. So there are different groups and we're constantly running in the same circles. Definitely.
Which is amazing because like you said, it's just it's like I'm assuming a just said you like you said a bunch of different groups that are like gathered to for a reason, either like you said to protest something, to pay image to something or pay respects to something, which is I think that's what's really cool too about it, that it's just like you guys just combine, and I'm sure you guys communicate and gather sometimes to do different things. I want to talk about that. So can you tell me a little bit about the I mean, we I know I saw the flyer and it was said like it was a protest, but it wasn't really a protest. Like I hate using protest because people see it as a negative thing, which it shouldn't be, right? Because we have the freedom of peacefully protesting when we to use our voice, right? Like I said, like there's so many ways to use our voice in a positive way. But tell me a little bit about the this event that happened and recently. And I know that I'm sure there's going to be more, but why was it important for you to be part of this? And what was it? Like, who put it together? I should ask first.
Yeah, definitely. So right, the need has always been there in our community for organizing, for representation, and for community mutual aid. But unfortunately, it's usually during these times of crisis that are so intense that is the catalyst that makes people actually come
Right.
together and right the momentum to get pushed. So there has been the need for many years for more organizing and Goleta and stuff like that. But it was recently, right, in this new administration, and we're seeing a whole new different levels of fear tactics, of terrorism, of public displays of fear, right? So this has woken up a lot of people. And so out of that was born this coalition of Goleta locals. parents, students, really people from different walks of life, people that just got back into town from moving away, people that are at different stages of their life, and really just being like, we need to do something, right? The need has been there, y ahora es la hora, if any, to hit the ground running, right?
Yeah, we don't
Um,
have an option. We really don't. Right?
very,
Like,
very, very much, yeah. No hay de otra. So
no hay de
like,
otra.
it's either us. You can't wait for someone else to like save you, right? El pueblo salva al pueblo. We really believe
Yeah.
that we save ourselves.
We have to
So
get each other's back. That's the only thing. And it's not just about getting each other's back, it's just humanity. And unfortunately, like you said, when there's these crises or this type of targeting, or just say any type of racism against a group of people, unfortunately we wait into things are so bad to like finally speak up. But I also think that's just human nature, when you actually have fear, that's when people act, either going to act for the good or they act for the bad. And I think that we've seen so much good. Um,
right.
oh my gosh, I'm like sweating of the stress. How embarrassing. Oh my God. Parezco nueva. Okay. My listeners, we did have a little bit of technical difficulties because I am apparently brand new to podcasting. But I was saying I haven't Zoom recorded in a couple months, and it looks like there was some confusion with my Zoom setup. But we were just getting to the good part of what we wanted to, like, this whole point of this episode. We wanted to talk about, our community and why we're finally speaking up. And unfortunately, we were mentioning before I rudely got interrupted, we were talking about how unfortunately a lot of um humans in nature, we once we're fed up or we feel afraid or we're angry about something, we decide to start like pushing back, or people like to say fighting back, or just really speaking up for what we believe. And unfortunately, we always have to get to like a bad place before we do that. But we were talking about, Diego was mentioning a little bit about the recent you said you didn't call it protest. What did you call it? It was a better term, I feel.
it was a rally. It was a rally and a march,
Rally.
but in
Yes.
like in Espanol, we're calling it a manifestación, right? So it's a
A mani-
manifestation, gathering, because a protest does like imply like you're going against something, like you're
Yes.
fighting something, but it was more so to rally, to
Hmm.
show solidarity amongst each other, to show mutual support and express our that we're fed up, pero también that we got each other's back and that we're not going to live in fear. So it was a lot of things besides protesting against something. It was more so we were
Yeah.
trying to uplift ourselves. Yeah.
Yeah, we were trying to lift each other in this difficult time, and specifically because we're seeing this horrific I mean, it sounds horrible, but it seems like a hunting of our Latino community, because this new administration believes that everybody is a criminal, and we specifically this manifestation was due to recent ICE raids in California that are horrific. And it is so much behind it, right? Like there's just so much people try to say there's a lot of political, which there is, but I think us just as a community and Latino community, we know how amazing we are to this country, not just because of the hardworking uh, people, right, that is part of our community, but it's also us as humans. We bring so much to the world, not just to the United States of America. The Latino community brings so much joy to the world, so much. Like I just feel like we're such a rich culture, and I'm not saying we are above anybody, but I'm just saying that do feel that if we didn't have our Latino community, and now they're just like such a bright spotlight, I think from just I people are trying to paint this like negative, I think, a spotlight in the again, classifying a lot of undocumented people as criminals. But I think it's actually doing the opposite. Like I do see so much uh, positivity and the sense of how they're painting our community. What is the truth? The hardworking people, the family unity that we do bring. Of course, there's a lot of like also negative things, right? That we can that I always talk about because I talk about the positive and the good and the bad because we also need to learn right from our past and our like past generations, like breaking the bad habits, the bad cycles. But I feel like the world is seeing us in instead of how they want to paint us as a negative, they're seeing us as a positive, and that's why there's all this rage because they know how much we contribute to the world, period, not just one country. So I definitely want to thank you for um also speaking up. I feel like sometimes I my son like a psychopath online, but I just have so much anger and I don't know how to express it. And of course, I am very involved in my community and I try to again educate myself or donate to to things that I find important, like different nonprofits and organizations, or be part of those. But I feel like I came to a point where I was just so upset and I just spilled it all out on social media and maybe like it comes across like I don't really care actually if it comes across bad like if it gets some people upset I don't really care, right? But I'm just
Yeah.
saying that I want to thank you for also like being part of this movement and to of like protecting each other because nobody's gonna like nobody knows us but us. And we know our families, we know our communities, and we know that we're not criminals. And it shouldn't be happening what is happening right now. I'm an immigrant myself, and I can guarantee you that I'm not no criminal. And I can guarantee you that I have brought so much good to this country. And I love this country, and I'm grateful for the opportunity uh, to be here. And I'm also privileged that I was able to, to have a path of citizenship. But I'm never going to forget where I'm come from. And I'm never going to be embarrassed that I was immigrant myself. And I do also feel like a lot of the times they want us to like, I don't like, it's just never good enough. Like, like you said, like people are like, oh, you're supposed to do it the right way. And it's just like, well, if you, whatever that right way is, I did it and you're still telling me I'm not good enough. And that is not okay. And it's not true. Like, everybody, any human in this world is not illegal. Like, I don't understand that concept. I get, like, obviously, that there is bad out there, there are criminals, but that's not what is happening. And it is so upsetting that they're painting our people and putting it in this political because that is just a political stunt but it's hurting our community and it's hurting our businesses and it's hurting like families, especially children. And I love speaking with people like you that you're using your voice for the good and you're also like what is you went to you went to school or you're going I saw that are you graduating or you graduated from UCSB?
I got my bachelor's in UCSB 2 years ago. I'm currently in a MA PhD program at
My gosh,
UCSB.
it's amazing. And what is the PhD program you're doing?
Chicano and Chicana studies. Yeah.
Amazing. Amazing. And tell me a little bit, Diego, about going back to the manifestation. How did you get involved with that? Is it because of the group that you're involved in?
Yes. And I think, yeah, there was a lot that I agreed with that you were just saying, right? Like we bring so much, um and our value doesn't come from how hard we work, right? Like it's not placed on what we can produce or how early we get up, how many people there's in the fields, but on just sheer humanity, ¿verdad? And I think
Yeah.
that's really what's bringing a lot of people out. Like you said, even allies that might have been silent their whole entire life um, are now speaking up. And like in all honesty, we should have been protesting Obama. We should have been protesting Bush. Like I faced family separation under Bush, under Obama. Um, Trump is just making it more public. Now people know about it, right? But our people have been facing terror and
Right.
persecution for decades, family
Yeah.
separation, and they haven't been going after criminals ever. I'm older than ICE. What were they doing before ICE, right? The
Hmm.
INS, they weren't even requesting visas to enter into the United States until the like early 1920s, ¿verdad? These are all
Hmm.
codes for white supremacy
Hmm.
because
Yeah.
they're not actually going after immigrants. They're showing up to schools and they're destroying the structures of our economy in our communities here, ¿verdad? Like they're going into our
Right.
swap meets. They're making people scared to show up to work. They're making it hard to exist. And so this is
Yes.
a type of ethnic cleansing that they are carrying out. That's why they're profiling people that are citizens. They're profiling natives, native peoples, native North American native peoples,
Yes.
right? Just because they're brown, so they think that they must be undocumented. That goes to show that it's not about citizenship is a code for white supremacy, right? It's a way to enforce that. And so our communities are just fighting back, resisting the same way that they have been for the
For generations. Yeah, I
500
totally
years.
agree. I know
So,
it is pretty sad when you know you go from like past history and you I mean it's been happening for so long and our people have always stood up some way somehow and fought back um and but it's sad that we're back to this point again. And it's like you don't want to repeat history, right? Especially the bad things of history and humanity. And I feel like that is what's happening again. And I'm exhausted. Let me just tell you, because this is not just like you said, it's just been generations. And besides that, we've just been through so much. I think that like what, you know, like people call millennials. I just feel like it's just been so much. And I'm just like mentally like trying not to get checked out because it is important for us to stay focused and for us to stay educated and for us to use our voice the right way. And um this is why since I became able to vote, I've been such an advocate of people voting. And people are always saying like, for what, like if my vote doesn't really matter if I vote or not. And I'm just like, how this is just like the mentality of people having that privilege to think that way. It's like super mind-blowing to me, that they just don't find it important. And again, it's not like you saying, that your vote doesn't count. It's kind of sad too that you feel like you don't count. Like that is just, I don't understand that mindset, but I do feel that and especially in our community, because I'm talking about, friends and family members, unfortunately, that I feel like we also been super in that sense, we're not very educated on how certain systems work or what are benefits or what are like, I'm just like, all I say is like, okay, like if you are not used to voting, say, but why
mhm.
don't you like try? Like, why don't you like try to learn like what are especially when it affects you locally. There's local voting, like for things that are gonna propositions that happen in your community, how you're not gonna pay attention, especially if you have children. They do a lot of like school like board stuff during the elections locally. And I'm like, I'm a parent, I'm on that thing. I'm like, okay, what do they want to change, what they're trying to like remove or add like, benefits for. And it's not just that, if it affects me or not. It's just like you should care about your community and what's going to affect in your community. But I do have to say that growing up, because I mean, we were technically not able to vote. I never really knew anything about voting or why was it important, or there's different, like the midterms, so I just didn't know. So I do feel that people don't know, like they still don't know. And I just, if like my daughter, like I tell her, like, you're turning 18 in December, girl. we're we're gonna register you, whatever I'm not gonna push anything on you, but I want you to be able to express, your opinion and your rights. And I just feel like, but that's just like a newer generation. But I do feel we still have a lot of the older generation that don't find it important. And now it's affecting our community.
Mhm.
How do you feel about that? Like, how do you, like, do you feel that there is a lack of education in that part?
I think there's a lot going on, a lot of people seeing how institutions work and having an incredible amount of distrust, and then seeing that whether the White House is blue or red, we're being screwed either way. It's just
True.
going to be in our face or behind our back. So people
True.
understandably feel like they like their vote might not matter, or on a different level, like yeah, like they're not making an impact. But I think you brought a great point. Like when it comes to your local elections, it's probably even more so. It's the more important, right? Because you're actually able to see the direct impacts that you will be experiencing. And I'm also a single parent, and so I'm part of the lucha as a local activist and local parents. We've also been fighting for implementation of ethnic studies in elementary school, middle school, high school. And part of that is also right your political consciousness, like having more awareness and education, as you say, about how things are run, about the rights that you have, and like exercising the privileges that you have. Like our family, we grew up with our parents not being able to vote, and then seeing everything just change around them and affect them without them having any input, right?
Hmm.
So for us, like a lot of us, it means so much to have the privilege to vote. And at the same time, I don't blame the people that
Right.
feel like they're gonna get screwed up either way. It's just how do you want it? How do you want to be screwed over? Basically, is like choose
And
which you want.
honestly, it is very true, and that's kind of what I was trying to say, because it is exhausting too. Like, I think I just posted, was it this morning or yesterday? I'm like, why do I even pay taxes for? Like, seriously, like, why do I have to pay taxes if I just feel like nothing benefits like, like our hardworking, like, people? And it is like, I'm just so like lost of why, like, we had to pay all this money, and I just don't see any. I mean, of course, like people say, like, oh, for the the streets and the city and the security of it and all that. Well, yes, but I'm just saying, like, I'm just so like lost and fed up that I'm just like, it's hard for me to. I'm not political at all. I am not, but I feel like at some point you have to learn and you have to figure it out. Like, I'm always been that person that I rather do than don't. Like, I rather speak up than don't. Like, that's just how I always been. Because when I lied, I have not always been like that, because when I was um I feel like I did live in fear for a long time, and I feel like I didn't belong, and I feel like I didn't have a right to give my opinion because I wasn't from here. But as a human in general, I have the right to give my opinion, but I just didn't feel that way, right? But that was also immaturity, I feel. But now no me para la boca y nadie me calla, and that's why I'm always fighting with people. No, I'm not fighting. I always like to listen to people's point of view. Um, but I mean, doesn't mean that I'm gonna agree with you. But I mean, I will, everybody has a right for their own opinion. But like, just if it's just we're just so different, I just don't rather have you in my circle, because it's just like. if you're against everything that I believe in, and I just believe in humanity and that we all deserve the same respect and dignity. And if you think that you're just above somebody else just because where you're from, where you came from, the color of your skin, because of your financial status, like we just don't have nothing in common. Like I just don't want to be your friend, right? But I mean, like it it is so important for I feel like our community to gather together and try to also protect the elderly, but then also to try to, we're not gonna, educate them in the sense that they're not aware, right? Because our parents, I feel, and our grandparents are smarter than us, I feel, like money wise, with values, with everything. They were just smarter than us. But I'm just saying that to let them know what their rights are, and to let them know not to fear, because that's what they're just trying to do, to silence people, to make them afraid. um Diego, I wanted to ask you, are you part of like of a group or a nonprofit?
Yeah, so right during these past couple months, community members have gotten together to organize more so. And here in
Mm-hmm.
Goleta, it turned out that when we got together, a lot of us, the things that we wanted to see done, um, like response networks for when there's going to be redadas, or when there's going to be retenes and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We also looked at our connections and who we could bring into our community to help organize. And so that ended up being Unión del Barrio. And this is an organization based originating from San Diego in like the 1980s. So they've been putting in
Wow.
work for decades and decades. They've spread out throughout the state, mostly in Southern California. There is no base in Goleta, so that's where we come in. We're locals, but we're bringing in the structure of this pre-existing, much wider organization, ¿verdad? And so they are have multiple facets of programs. They have youth programs, they have immigration programs, they have programs for people who are incarcerated. They're really like mutual aid, very grassroots, community-based organizing and community and activism. So Unión del Barrio, we're establishing that here in Goleta. That is how
Mhm.
we organize the rally and the march.
Okay.
Um, and then we're in coalition with the wider organizations in Santa Barbara, the 805 Undocu Fund, the Rapid Response, ISAR of Santa Barbara, ISAR of Goleta, organizing with people in Isla Vista. And you mentioned, right, UCSB. Um, I would say not as much as the university, but the people in the university are definitely
Mhm.
very active,
Right.
right? So
Right.
the students, the undergrads at El Congreso have been showing up in our community, um, and putting in their own work on campus, right, in their own ways, but also coming down, boots on the ground in the community, helping out. So there is hopefully a stronger connection also being built between the university, which is a gentrifying institution
Mm-hmm.
on in our communities, right?
Mm-hmm.
And as a
Yeah.
local, I saw how it affected our communities, but that there needs to be a better connection. So that's one other thing that we've been benefiting from, right? Connecting with the student base, with Santa Barbara, and here in Goleta is where we are organizing our base, and it's under the structure of Unión del Barrio.
That is amazing. And where, like, if people want to kind of know what's going on, or if they want to be part of it, of certain, volunteer or events, or would you be able, well, should we be able to find you in Instagram, or how do they have a, like, I'm sure they have maybe like a website, but I'm just saying, like, for the local Goleta based, like for people from Santa Barbara County or Ventura.
It's the on Instagram. It's ice out of Goleta.
Okay.
Underscore in between each word.
Okay.
And so that has been the page that posts um, not only the informational flyers and stuff, because there's also a phone number for Goleta for in case there's sightings of
Okay.
migra. Anybody can call that. It's a tip line.
Right.
We receive tips, and then we go to verify them, and then we go from there. So we post information like that, but we're going to be posting our meetings, right? Our Know Your Rights workshops. There is a lot of work that is going to be that is being done in the community, not just protesting, not just taking the
Right.
streets, not chanting, ¿verdad? But there's so much behind the scenes. There's so much organizing. We're doing community migra patrols in the mornings, and just last week, they took two gardeners by a laundromat in Old Town Goleta. So the community has been showing out and patrolling like ourselves, like really living through
Right.
El Pueblo Salva el Pueblo.
Yeah.
Uh, and so that would be a good base to start if you're a local, right? Instagram, Ice out of Goleta. Also, if you want more information about Unión del Barrio, their Instagram is Unión del Barrio, and they're posting their migra patrols that they're doing in LA and San Diego, and you see the badass work that they're doing. It's really incredible. So that's one way to learn about the organization, and if you want to get in touch right with the local base, that's going to be ICE out of Goleta.
That is that is great because I know that a lot of people have reached out to me because I like post things that I see like either nonprofits or um businesses that are donating to certain like just say law firms that do like immigration like to bail people out or for their whatever process. And I've been posting things like that, and people always ask me like, oh, like I wish we had something here, or like something that we can get more like information from like locally. And I think this is just great. I have been seeing a lot of other people reposting like friends of mine and stuff that I follow, locals that we we always follow each other and everybody knows each other. I seen a lot of movement with the ice out of Goleta movement, and I do see a lot of people posting that. So that's great. That is I mean it's you know to get a group going sometimes it's so difficult, but I feel like it's been such a like successful turnout locally and fast growing, and like you said is people caring, which is very refreshing to see. um and I, like you said, I've been speaking out about this since literally like in terms of my experience as an immigrant and my experience with racism and just my experience of um just the difference that I see me being from Mexico and here, and also speaking against deportation and like the inhumanity that happens through that process since I started the podcast. And I just think that a lot of people just like not that they turn their like they see like a blind eye or something, but I just feel like now it's just in their face and it is happening in their community and it's affecting them now directly, either with family members, friends, that like you said, like it's also unfortunate sometimes that it has to happen to us personally for us to care. And there's a lot of people out there like us that it doesn't really have to like affect me for me to care about humans in general, right? But a lot of people do feel that way. They're like, well, it doesn't affect me, man. It is what it is. It's been happening for so long. But so I'm just glad that people are now speaking up and not holding back and trying to help and protect their communities. And I'm very happy that that's a positive of what is happening right now, but I just hope it doesn't stop just with this. Like I hope that it keeps going, and I hope that there should be a path of, I don't know. And again, it's not about like being documented. It's about just like treating humans with respect, and we're all like brothers and sisters technically, and I just don't understand how people don't see it that way.
Mhm.
And it's just so difficult to kind of express how I feel. But I'm glad there's people like you and the group that you are part of and our community. Especially I have seen a lot of people out of Goleta. Um, and a lot of people from Ventura and Oxnard. I've been seeing a lot of movement from there. I
So,
live in a very, small town, but we have our little protests and we have our little groups going. And if we, if we tried to do our best here. But if we joined, the bigger cities to help out, and I think it's important for us to be connected and to spread as much awareness of these types of groups, small or big organizations, because we need all the help that we can get at this point. Um, but I wanted to
absolutely.
ask you, in a personal level, why is it so important for you to be part of this movement, or not a movement but being part of like helping your community, like, because like I said, a lot of people don't find it important, but why is it important for you?
Yeah, well, and I think a lot of us that are impacted at a young age become radicalized, politicized, right? In a whole different way. We end up getting raised in a right this country and a society with a whole different perspective, not identifying with being American sometimes, with the history that they would tell us, right? With the pride that they would try to instill in you. It just didn't reflect, or there was nothing for us to relate to, especially for those of us that had faced state violence, right? Family separation, terror, raids. When you're 8 years old, right, and you're being terrorized and it's happening more than once, how could that not impact you like, and this goes to a point that you were saying, right? Some folks might not think that that pertains to them if they're not undocumented, or if none of their family is, or maybe, or for whatever reason, like they said, maybe it's always been this way. But it's so easy to forget that personal is political and the political is personal. And there is no separation from that if they're constantly in a dialogue with each other. And if you ignore one, you're being passive and you're just letting it act upon you. Um, and so for a lot of us, right, that I think that do experience uh, state violence at a young age, we come to this realization and we see the world around us so differently, right? If you're undocumented, your family's undocumented, you can't bring this up at school. Te dicen that to not speak about it, to live in secrecy. Um, that
Yeah,
changes the way that you see yourself, that you carry yourself, that you identify.
yeah,
Um, and that also builds this awareness that when you see injustices, that you have this new sight that you can see injustices happen. It doesn't have to look like someone getting beat up. It could be being triggered by seeing a white van, right? Like that is a form of violence, psychological. Um,
trauma. Yeah,
we recognize that, yeah, trauma. So I think it just moves you to the point where you can't not do something, right? And it's such, and you're in a collective. Nothing ever happens with one or two people. Like every single step of the way of organizing that rally or any other organization has been like through the hands of so many people, right? So being in a community, being in a strong base, and then having this awareness of the society that you're in, the position that you really carry, and then realizing also the propaganda that you've been fed your entire life. And cuando no checa, like you might not realize it, but subconsciously we feel like something's wrong, and we'll speak
yeah,
up, right? So that's why people speak up, even if like uh, we're criminalized, where you're supposed to do something the right way. Um, but we just on a human level, you recognize terror when you hear people screaming, when you see fear.
yeah,
Um, and more so, like this goes to like the way that you identify yourself, for those of us in like the Chicana community, recognizing our identity as people in who have inherited or ancestral traditions, who are descendants of the indigenous people, who in many times are the indigenous people of this continent, we are not bound by identities of American or even Mexican by that standard, right? Because we are so much older than these borders. We're
Yeah.
so much older, and we have been migrating. It's so natural to humans. But here in the Southwest, in Santa Barbara, in there has been there's archaeological sites where they're pulling abalone from Santa Barbara in Arizona, and they're finding turquoise from Arizona in Santa Barbara. There's turquoise from Arizona in Mexico. Just so much evidence that there's just thousands of years of commerce, of migration, of cultural exchange, that this was not going to stop when they painted a line on the land. Um,
Right.
so if you do know history, it should not surprise you that the indigenous peoples of this continent have continued their tradition of migration. Este, so when you also recognize that, you take that identity on, you kind of reject anything that the state might impose upon you, like identity wise or calling you, criminalizing you. Because if you're solid, right, in your identity, you understand where you come from, no one can take that away from you. And that's what
Correct.
they rely on to put you down by calling you a foreigner or something. Uh, when it doesn't take many brain cells to realize that they come from across the ocean and our people could have walked here. We could walk back to where our parents were born. It could take us a while, but we could literally walk there. They had to take several ships across the ocean for months from Europe. So it's these perspectives, right? This
Yeah.
realizing, having this awareness of your position in history and in this society. You walk around and you're just like, you can't be passive um, when you see all this going on, especially when you see how also our people have been resisting, like we were talking about. You're seeing history, but you're also seeing the history of resistance movements. 500 years of resistance movements. We're just the next page in that chapter.
Yeah. And I mean, and that's why I also think about, like you said, like the past. And I'm like, imagine just staying quiet and silent or live in fear or let just, you be oppressed and just letting all the past, people or groups or ancestors that fought for us to have some sort of, stability or life or I just feel like that's so as a human being ungrateful for all the past generational like trauma that people live just to be able to for the next generation to have a better life. A lot of culture here in America is just so close-minded. Like I'm just like, did you guys don't like never leave this country? I don't understand because you do have a lot of, I feel like a lot of our culture, like in here, like Latinos, we don't get to travel, right? Because we're always working, 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 and raising family and working, working, working. We don't get to enjoy it as other groups, I feel. But I'm just like, how do you not like know more about the culture, right? Like I just feel like there's just so do you see, do you get what I'm trying to say? Like I just
Uh,
they're just so clueless of what's going on. And I
and
don't
I'm
know
thinking,
how.
I, it's the way that our education system indoctrinates us, pues, like what they teach us, but also the bigger picture of what they're trying to paint. Um, it just centers the U.S. so much, maybe
Hmm.
Europe as well by extension, um, as the center of like every all of existence, and everything else is catching up. The whole world is catching up to the US. That's the whole mentality of first world, third world country, is that a developing nation, right? These ideas that the world is catching up to this American supremacy, which is white supremacy. Um, and it unfortunately it takes you not only to have a chispa of like awareness that'll make you question things,
Hmm.
but then after that, you have to do the intentional work to learn
Yeah.
Like you said, like because it's not um, taught to you the way it should be, to the point that you have to go out of your way to learn about yourself. Um, and then since you have to do it on your own, it's easy to get lost and it's easy to get misinformation también and get
Yeah.
like guided in like weird ways.
Right. It's
So
true.
that's, I mean, it's such a common thing, right? Too, like we're monolingual speakers. We don't know the geography of other countries. It's just a cliche, right, for the US that we're so self-centered. And that reflects in the ways also that how you were saying some people don't want to be involved because they don't see themselves in the struggle. It's the same self-centeredness that the United States' society as a culture, we've been molded by it, right? Our whole lives, those of us that, like you said, have been raised here, like we don't know anything different. That has been our whole shaping.
Yeah.
Este,
Yeah,
it's
no, and I think it's and I think that's why it's so like beautiful when you have just say like flat families are blended, like multicultural blend, and it's because or they call it like I'm inter what is it called? What is the word that I'm trying to say?
interracial marriage.
Yes, yes. Because it is beautiful because then you get to, like I said, like it's also it's amazing. It could be difficult because you're from two different backgrounds, two different cultures, and I think when you mix families, it could be a little tricky. But I think it's such a like beautiful thing. Even though like my husband and I were like both Mexicans, but I always say we were just so different, right? But now he like loves like he wants to move to Tijuana. He just loves Mexico, right? And I think that like that's like the good thing he's learning about the culture and I think that is just great. Besides, like his parents are from Jalisco and which is beautiful. And I just went last summer for the first time, which is crazy. I mean, I don't know why it took me so long, um, but I feel like his parents were from like small little like ranchos. They're not even they're like little ranchitos, and I
Mhm.
thought it was so amazing. Like I was just in heaven because I grew up, like I said, in Tijuana. And Tijuana is such a big city, and everybody crosses through there, so it's like a little bit of a mess sometimes. But I thought it was just like so much fun. It's always like like you always see somebody new, or you will learn something new. Um, but a lot of people don't like that, but what I remember, I loved it. But I it's just it is a big difference from me being from like a border town, like a city, than from being from a like a small town like in a certain part of Mexico. And there's a huge difference, and which I find is super interesting too. In Mexico, anywhere you go, I mean, I have obviously never had a bad experience, but people are like, oh, well, because you're Mexican. But no, I just feel like we're just like our culture is just like we just welcome everybody. We don't, and that's the other thing too. I always fight with people because Tijuana has such a bad reputation. But I'm just like, we welcome everybody. I don't know what you're talking about. Like everybody crosses through there first of all, and then I feel like there's just so much to do. There's just so much cultural like mixture there. You learn so much. And I mean, I feel like if we're talking about like violence, there's violence everywhere. Clearly, like I
Yeah.
mean, look at what's happening right now here in our own home. And it's like people just like they just need to wake up. Like it's time. We're in 2025 and I'm just like exhausted. Like this year has only been 6 months and I just feel like I lived like 5 years.
Yeah.
Like I mean, I don't know about you, but I don't know how I'm gonna survive 4 years.
Yeah. I feel
Like
that too in a lot of ways.
like how? Like I literally don't know. And I don't even know if I'm gonna have to just like disconnect from the world because it's tough. It's like it's hard not to care. It's hard to ignore it when you like you said, like when you know that is wrong or what is happening or when you have normal human decency, and you know that whatever, like what's happening, not just here around the world, is terrible. And it's like sometimes I'm like, I'm jealous of those people that just like continue to live life and it's just like whatever. And I'm just like, oh, I wish I can just go back to those days that I didn't care. Well, I mean, because I was young, not because I don't care, but it's just because when you're young, you don't. I mean, have you always been like very involved in learning about like your culture and very involved in your community, or you feel like also as the older you got? But I think you mentioned you did have, you have like suffer from, you said family separation, right? In a young age. So that
Yeah,
impacted you?
yeah. So like the idea of the political being personal was made undeniable for me at like
Mm,
years old, right?
right.
Este, that leads you, all your decisions throughout life then are kind of based through that. That's your background, that's your context for the world. Um,
Yeah.
I was probably about 15 when I started organizing in like community activist spaces in Goleta. And at the same time, my journey with cultural connection, ¿verdad? Because that's also something that we miss a lot of times growing up. And our
Hmm.
parents are always working all the time, so they can't, they're focused on providing. And a lot of the times they didn't have the chance either because they're also providing for a family. So that spark, that's that chispa that I got it, that definitely had kicked it off for me. So I was learning, I was part of uh, this group in Goleta called the Conservation of the American Pyramids, which was my entry point into like indigeneity, um, cultura, uh, decolonizing yourself, right? Decolonizing your diet, the way that you think. And then my road into danza when I was like 16, starting to do Aztec dancing. Those all went hand in hand like the entire way. Me starting when we were in high school, when we were seniors in high school, we organized a walkout against Donald Trump. Well, that's the year he got inaugurated, um, the first time.
The
So
first time.
we were doing walkouts. We actually marched from my high school, Dos Pueblos, all the way to UCSB, a couple miles. And we met up with another protest there. And since then, right, and I started running into these circles of activistas and gente that are really
Mm,
mobilizing and organizing. Um,
yeah.
and so I have been so privileged to be surrounded by such high role models in my, formation as a teenager. Um, so then going through college and stuff, I'm 25 now. Este, um, that has completely shaped my political understanding. And then actually at the same time that I was being activated politically and culturally at like 15, 16, so when I became a young dad at the same time. So becoming a dad and then, and then being politicized and then going into a um, cultural knowledge was a whole paradigm shift for me. Completely, that has been, I guess, the background of my early adult life.
But you know that's your story. That is how you get involved. But Diego, I want to thank you so much for your time. I think I already kept you way too much. I'm so sorry. Like I said, like I can talk forever and ever and ever, and you probably have
It
things to do.
was a good conversation. I really enjoyed it.
Oh well, I'm glad. I'm glad. And I thank you so much for bearing with me with the technical difficulties and everything. The good thing is that you can always edit everything, so that is always the great thing that I can to edit that. But I also want to compliment your, is that a quilt or behind you?
Oh, this is my one of my house ornaments that I got when I moved in here. This is a canvas.
Oh, it's a canvas. It's so pretty. I was like, I've been
Okay.
looking at it the whole time. That's why I've been distracted. Some I feel like my eye was just like trying to look at everything.
It's like loteria, but it has a couple like local
Ah,
stuff.
that is like that somebody did it for you, or like they just bought it and gifted it to
Oh
you.
yeah, some local artist did this, and then it
Oh,
was at my friend's house, and then he gifted it to me when I moved.
oh, that's so jealous. That is so cool.
Yes.
That's nice. That's a very nice gift. I was like, that is so cool. I've been like staring at it the whole time.
The first thing you see when you open the door.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much. Thank you to our listeners for, just tuning in today. And I hope you find this conversation, informative because we talked about different groups that if you're locally, you can join, or, if you want to volunteer or whatever. Also, sometimes people say, like, you know what? Like, I never thought about that. Like, or, I always, hope of this is that somebody can relate to it, or it can find it like helpful or eye-opening, or just sharing somebody's story. It's always like I enjoy listening to people's stories, so it's always like super interesting to know people's backgrounds, interests, especially locally, because we are neighbors, we live here, and it's amazing to know that we have a great community, great neighbors, and that we're doing our best that we can for not just the Latino community, but just for our community in general to have a better place to live, a safe place, and to stay open-minded and respect each other. So I really appreciate you. I appreciate the Amigos Club for tuning in today. And into next time. Say bye, Diego.
Bye, muchas gracias.